Hi, welcome back to Rocky Mountain Prepper. I am Bellum. This time we are back in our Strong Foundation series where we are in a journey through the Bible. When last we left off, Jacob was sent to his uncle Laban because he had cheated his brother out of the birthright and blessings of his father. And while he was with Laban, he was instructed by his father and his mother to marry while he was there. He tried to marry Rachel, but Laban tricked him and switched her for Leah. And then the ensuing competition of who could produce the most children ensued. So far, Rachel has only had Joseph, unless you count her servant that she gave to her husband for the prospect of having children through someone that belongs to her. But that's a very Jerry Springer issue that I don't want to get into at this moment. Alright, we are now in Genesis 31. In Hebrew that would be Bereshit 31. And he heard the words of Laban's sons, saying, Jacob has taken away all that is our father's, and from what belonged to our father he has made all his wealth. And Jacob would look at the face of Laban and see that it was not toward him as before. Laban wasn't looking at him the same anymore. And Yahweh said to Jacob, return to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, for I am with you. And Jacob set and called Rachel and Leah to the field to his flock. And he said to them, see your father's face, that it is not toward me as before, but the Elohim of my father has been with me. And you know that I have served your father with all my strength. And yet your father has deceived me and changed my wages 10 times. But Elohim did not allow him to do evil to me. Okay, what he's basically saying here is he's making a case to his wives that they should leave. And he's spelling out the whole case before that to them, and explaining, look, I've worked for your father for all these years. He hasn't done it. He hasn't done me right. Every time we've talked about my wage, he changes it on me. But God did not care. God has still made me prosper. Then he said this, or when he said this, the speckled are your wages. Then all the flocks were speckled. And then he said this, the streaked are your wages. Then all the flocks were streaked. Basically, either they were multicolored, speckled, like almost polka dotted, usually black, white, and brown, or they had just stripes. What would appear to be little stripes on them. So Elohim has taken away the livestock of your father and given them to me. And it came to be at the time when the flocks conceived that I lifted my eyes and looked in a dream, and saw the rams which leaped upon the flocks were streaked, speckled, and mottled. And the messenger of Elohim spoke to me in a dream, saying, Jacob. And I said, Here I am. And he said, Lift your eyes now, and see all the rams which leap on the flocks are streaked, speckled, and mottled. For I have seen all that Laban is doing to you. And I am the El of Bethel, where you anointed the standing column, and where you made a vow to me. Now rise up, get out of this land, and return to the land of your relatives. And Rachel and Leah answered and said to him, Do we still have any portion of inheritance in our father's house? Are we not reckoned by him as strangers? For he has sold us, and also entirely consumed our silver. For all the wealth which Elohim has taken from our father is ours, and our children's. Now then, do whatever Elohim has told you. So Jacob rose and put his sons and his wives on camels. And he drove all of his livestock and all his possessions which he had acquired, his property of livestock which he had acquired in Padam Aram, to go to his father Isaac in the land of Canaan. And when Laban had gone to shear his sheep, Rachel stole the house idols that were her father's. Sounds like someone wasn't really fully devoted to Yahweh. Maybe that's why she was having trouble having children. And Jacob deceived Laban the Aramean because he did not inform him that he was about to flee. And he fled with all he had. And he rose up and passed over the river and headed towards the mountains of Gilead. And on the third day Laban was told that Jacob had fled. And he took his brothers with him and pursued him for 7 days' journey. And he overtook him in the mountains of Gilead. But in a dream by night Elohim came to Laban the Aramean and said to him, Guard yourself, that you do not speak to Jacob either good or evil. You can see that God is protecting Jacob. He's there for us if we allow him to be. Let's see, where was I? Okay. Then Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mountains, and Laban with his brothers pitched in the mountains of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, What have you done, that you have deceived me, and driven my daughters off like captives, and like captives taken with the sword? Why do you flee secretly and deceive me and not inform me? And I would have sent you away with joy and songs, with tambourine and lyre. Basically saying, I would have given you a party to send you on your way. And you did not allow me to kiss my sons and my daughters. Now you have been foolish to do this. It is in the power of my hand to do evil to you, But the Elohim of your father spoke to me last night, saying, Guard yourself, that you do not speak evil to Jacob, either good or evil. And now you have gone because you greatly long for your father's house. But why did you steal my mighty ones? And Jacob answered and said to Laban, Because I was afraid, for I said, Lest you tear your daughters away from me. With whomever you find your mighty ones, do not let him live. In the presence of our brothers, see for yourself what is with me, and take it with you. For Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them. And Laban went into Jacob's tent, and into Leah's tent, and into the tents of the two female servants, but he did not find them. And when he came out of Leah's tent and entered Rachel's tent, Now Rachel had taken the house idols and put them in the camel's saddle and had sat on them. And Laban searched all about the tent, but did not find them. And she said to her father, Let it not displease my master that I am unable to rise before you. For the way of women is with me. And he searched and did not find the idols. She used the excuse that she was on her period, that she couldn't stand. And Jacob was wroth and condemned Laban. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, What is my transgression? What is my sin, that you have hotly pursued me? Now that you have searched all my goods, what have you found of all your household goods? Set it here before my brothers and your brothers, and let them decide between the two of us. These 20 years I have been with you. Your ewes and your female goats have not miscarried their young, and I have not eaten the rams of your sheep. Back in that time, it was actually customary for the shepherds to eat a ram or two a week out of the flock. Jacob saying, I didn't even do that. That which was torn by beasts I did not bring to you. I myself bore the loss of it. You required it from my hand, whatever stolen by day or by night. Thus I was by day in the heat consumed. By day the heat consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep fled from my eyes. I worked hard day and night for you, in the heat and in the cold. These 20 years I have been in your house, served you 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your flocks. And and you have changed my wages 10 times. Unless the Elohim of my father, the Elohim of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had been with me, you would now have sent me away empty-handed. Elohim has seen my affliction and the labor of my hands, and rendered judgment last night. And Laban answered and said to Jacob, These daughters are my daughters, and these children are my children, and this flock is my flock, and all that you see is mine. But what shall I do today to these my daughters, or to their children, whom they have borne. Now, come, let us make a covenant, you and I, and it shall be a witness between you and me. And Jacob took a stone and set it up as a standing column. And Jacob said to his brothers, gather stones. And they took the stones and made a heap. And they ate there on the heap. And Laban called it Yagar Sharatha, but Jacob called it Gald. And Laban said, this heap is a witness between you and me today. This is why its name is called Galeed. Also Mitzpeth, because he said, let Yahweh watch between you and me when we are out of each other's sight. If you afflict my daughters, or if you take other wives besides my daughters, although no man is with us, see, Elohim is witness between you and me. And Laban said to Jacob, see this heap, and see this standing column, which I have placed between you and me. This heap is witness, and this standing column is a witness, that I do not pass beyond this heap to you, and you do not pass beyond this heap and this standing column to me for evil. The Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Nahor, and the Elohim of their father rightly rule between us. And Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. And Jacob slaughtered a slaughtering on the mountain, and called his brothers to eat bread, and they ate bread and spent the night on the mountain. And Laban rose up early in the morning, and kissed his sons and daughters, and blessed them. And Laban left, and returned to his place. It's always important to stay hydrated. Genesis 32. And Jacob went on his way, and the messengers of Elohim met him. And Jacob saw them. He said, this is the camp of Elohim. And he called the name of the place Meth-Anarim. And Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau his brother in the land of Shear, the field of Edom. And he commanded them, saying, say this to my master Esau, your servant Jacob said this, I have sojourned with Laban, and stayed there until now. And I have bulls and donkeys, flocks, and male and female servants, and I have sent to inform my master to find favor in your eyes. So the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, we came to your brother Esau, and he also is coming to meet you, and 400 men with him. And Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. So he divided the people that were with him, and the flocks, and the herds, and the camels into two groups. This is actually a pretty smart tactic. If you don't have any fighting men, you divide up your group so that one can get away while the other's getting destroyed. So at least someone survives. And he said, if Esau comes to one group and strikes it, then the other group which is left shall escape. And Jacob said, O Elohim of my father Abraham, and Elohim of my father Isaac, Yahweh, who said to me, return to your land and to your relatives, and I do good to you. I do not deserve the least of all this loving commitment, and all the truth which you have sworn your servant, for I passed over this Yarden with my staff, and now I have become two groups. Deliver me, I pray, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he come and shall strike me, and the mother with the children. For you said, I shall certainly do good to you, and shall make your seed as the sand of the sea, which are too numerous to count. And he spent the night there, and took what came to his hand as a present for his brother Esau. 200 female goats and 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 suckling camels with their colts, 40 cows and 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys and 10 foals. And he gave into the hand of his servants every drove by itself, and said to his servants, pass over before me, and put some distance between drove and drove. Basically saying keep them all separate so that they can arrive separately when they get to him. And he commanded the first one, saying, when Esau my brother meets you and asks you, saying, to whom do you belong, and where are you going, and whose are these in front of you? Then you shall say, they are your servant Jacob's. It is a present to be sent to my master Esau. And see, he also is behind us. So he commanded the second and the third, and all who followed the droves, saying, speak to Esau in the same word when you find him. And you shall say, look, your servant Jacob is behind us. For he said, let me appease him with the present that goes before me, and after that see his face. He might accept me. And the present passed over before him, but he himself spent the night in the camp. And he rose up that night, and took his 2 wives and 2 female servants, and his 11 sons, and passed over the ford of Jacob, I believe it says. Jabbok. The ford of Jabbok. And he took them and sent them over the stream, and sent over what he had. And Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the breaking of day. Some translations it actually says God. So let's look here. So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him till daybreak. In the New International. What does yours say?
It says, a man wrestled with him until the breaking of day.
Alright. Let's see what this one says. I could have swore I saw some versions that it said that he directly wrestled with God. So Jacob was left alone and a man. Okay. Well, all the ones I have on hand right now say a man. Until the breaking of day. And then he saw that he did not overcome him. He touched the socket of his hip, and the socket of Jacob's hip, was dislocated, and he wrestled with him. And he said, "Let me go, for the day breaks." But he said, "I am not letting you go. I am not letting you go until you have blessed me." So he asked him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Jacob." And he said, "Your name is no longer Jacob, but Israel, because you have striven with Elohim and with men, and have overcome." And Jacob asked him, saying, "Please let me know your name." And he said, "Why do you ask about my name?" And he blessed him there. Basically, we know from past discussions that no one can look upon the face of God. This was pre-incarnate Jesus he was wrestling with. I mean, why else would he want him to bless him? I mean, you don't just have someone you wrestle with bless you. And no one has the power to, but God or an angel with the command of God to do it, could just touch your hip and dislocate it. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen Elohim face to face, and my life is preserved. And the sun rose on him as he passed over Peniel, and he limped from his hip. That is why the children of Israel to this day do not eat the sinew of the hip, which is on the socket of the thigh, because he touched the socket of the thigh of Jacob in the sinew of the hip. Basically, they don't eat the top of the leg muscle, right there at the hip. Oh well, more meat for me. And Jacob lifted his eyes and looked and saw, this is 33 by the way, and looked and saw Esau coming, and with him 400 men, and he divided the children among Leah and Rachel and the 2 female servants. And he put the female servants and their children in front, and Leah and her children behind, and Rachel and Joseph last. And he himself passed over before them, and bowed himself to the ground 7 times until he came near to his brother. And Esau ran to meet him, and embraced him, and fell on his neck, and kissed him, and wept. Fell on his neck is we would say nowadays hugged. Embraced him. Embraced him in a brotherly hug and laid his head down on his neck. And he lifted his eyes and saw the women and children and said, "Who are these with you?" And he said, "The children whom Elohim has favored your servant." Then the female servants came near, and they and their children, and bowed themselves. And Leah came also near with her children, and they bowed themselves. And Joseph and Rachel came near, and they bowed themselves. And Esau said, "What do you mean by all this company which I meet?" And he said, "To find favor in your eyes for my master." But Esau said, I have enough, my brother. Let what you have remain yours." And Jacob said, "No, please, if I have newfound favor in your eyes, then receive my present from my hand, because I have seen your face like seeing the face of Elohim, and you were pleased with me. Please take my blessing that is brought to you, because Elohim has favored me, and because I have all I need." And he urged him, and he took it. And he said, "Let us depart and go, and let me go before you." And he said to him, "My master knows that the children are weak, and the flocks and herds which are nursing are near me. And if any man should drive them hard, one day all the flock shall die." Basically saying the women and children are slow, and I can't push the flocks very hard today, right now, because they're still nursing young, and it'll kill everybody. It'll kill all the flocks. "Please let my master go before his servant, and let me lead on slowly according to the pace of the livestock that go before me, and according to the pace of the children, until I come to my master in Shinar," or Shire, however you're supposed to pronounce that. And Esau said, "Please let me leave with you some of the people who are with me." But he said, "Why this? Let me find favor in your eyes, in the eyes of my master." And Esau returned that day on his way to Shire. And Jacob set out to Sukkot, and built himself a house, and made booths for his livestock. That is why the name of the place is called Sukkot. And Jacob came safely to the city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan. When he came from Padam Aram, and he pitched his tent before the city. And he brought the portion of the field where he had pitched his tent. He bought the portion of the field where he pitched his tent from the children of Hamor, Shechem's father for 100 Kaddish. It says down here in the notes, monetary unit of uncertain value, perhaps in the form of a lamb. Basically, he traded some livestock for it. And he set up a slaughter place there and called it El Eloha Israel. Okay. We'll pick up right there next time with 34. Thank you all for watching. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. As usual, good luck and God bless.